ranking wrestlers who had the best spears in wrestling history. Number 10. Big Show. Seeing somebody of Big Show's size hitting a spear was always incredibly impressive, as you can buy into that being a huge finisher, as someone as big as Show charging into another wrestler is clearly going to have damage. The main issue for why Show's version of the spear isn't one of the greatest in WWE history is the fact he was always a little slow while hitting it, which is no surprise due to his size making it more difficult for him. Show also tended to rely on his arm too much rather than making it look like he was genuinely spearing someone. It also didn't help that this was never Show's main finishing move, with either the choke slam or the KO punch taking priority, but it was certainly impressive. Number 9. Edge. In terms of talent, Edge is probably one of the greatest on this list and actually deserves to be ranked much higher. However, even though the WWE Hall of Famer was incredible at most things, hitting the spear wasn't one of them. Although the move was his finisher for the vast majority of his career, you would think he would hit it with more power and damage. Unfortunately, Edge's spear isn't one of the greatest in wrestling history, as it often resembled a big hug more than anything else, which took away from the move. Although he managed to get the move over better than most who have used it, with huge spear chants often being heard during his matches as a face, and a spear to Jeff Hardy hanging from the title in mid-air is an iconic moment. It just isn't one of the best. Number 8. Bobby Lashley. The former ECW champion is another impressive example of a wrestler who used the spear, and anytime that somebody of his size uses the move, you know it's gonna look great, as he has so much power and pace to put behind it. Lashley gets so much of his strength behind his spears that the move looks incredible, especially against smaller opponents, because you can see just how easily he is taking them down. It works as a perfect finishing move for Lashley, as he can hit the spear on anybody and he always makes it look great, especially because he can hit it in an instant, being able to change his pace very quickly. Number 7. Charlotte Flair. Charlotte Flair hits an incredible spear, which likely comes as no surprise to anyone because whatever Charlotte does always tends to be superb. As arguably the greatest in-ring worker of the current female division, Charlotte uses all of her power and speed to make sure the move looks as good as possible, catching her opponent right in the midriff and using tons of strength to make it seem as damaging as possible. The only reason she doesn't rank higher is because Charlotte normally uses the move as a special move rather than a finisher, which is how it should really be used, as the move is that good. Sadly, it is rare that Charlotte actually wins a match with her spear. Number 6. Batista. Just like Charlotte Flair, it is very rare that the animal Batista would use the spear as his main finishing move, often letting it be a transition into his actual finisher, which was of course the Batista Bomb. However, that doesn't mean that Batista's version was bad by any stretch. In fact, it was anything but that, with Batista being the powerhouse that he was making the move look as lethal as anyone could. Batista would often set it up and head to the corner to ensure he got as much pace behind the move as possible, and that made it look fantastic as he took out his opponents, although he would often slow a little when driving them to the mat. Number 5. Kaitlyn. When you think about the spear, former Divas champion Kaitlyn is probably not the first person that springs to mind, as she isn't one of the top female performers that everyone remembers. But that doesn't mean she wasn't one of the best. Kaitlyn hit a devastating spear that is certainly amongst the very best in WWE history. Because Kaitlyn was much stronger than her fellow divas during her run, the move really rocked her opponents and looked really impressive. With Kaitlyn set to return soon during the Mae Young Classic tournament, wrestling fans will soon get to see arguably the greatest female spear in wrestling history, which is no doubt going to help her progress far in the tournament. Number 4. Big E. Now Big E doesn't really use the spear much in his regular wrestling matches, but when the New Day member breaks out the move, he does it in an incredible way and always ends up putting his body on the line to hit it. Big E doesn't tend to do the move inside the ring. Instead, he waits until his opponent is on the ring apron and spears them off the apron onto the floor, diving through the ropes in the process in what is an incredibly impressive move. It is something he has started doing less frequently, largely due to how risky the move was becoming, as he would often land very awkwardly. However, that only makes it seem even more impressive as he only uses it for big moments. Number 3. Roman Reigns. The big dog might not be everyone's favorite, but there can be no denying his brilliant spear is one of the very best in history and certainly the best in wrestling right now, with Roman Reigns connecting with his opponents perfectly every time. Reigns uses his football playing background to his benefit here, using so much pace that he is able to catch his opponents and really take them out whenever he uses it, and Reigns can do it from mid-air or on the ground. The fact that Roman uses this as his main finishing move is also a real benefit, with the move being as protective as it is by WWE. Many see it as one of the best finishing moves in the company right now. Number 2. Rhyno. Unlike the other wrestlers on this list, the former ECW star doesn't call the move a spear. Instead, he calls it the gore, but is equally as effective as any other spear, as it is exactly the same move, and Rhyno hits it with a huge impact. The wrestling veteran has so much power and has a natural low center of gravity, which allows him to connect brilliantly with his opponents, as he connects with tons of strength, which really looks like he folds his opponent in half. Nobody will ever forget his infamous gore to Chris Jericho on SmackDown, where he sent him through the Titantron at the back, which caused a huge eruption from the fans. We might not see the move much anymore from him, but it's still one of the best ever. Number 1. Goldberg. Could there really be anyone else taking the top spot when it comes to who hits the best spear in wrestling? Goldberg might get critiques from lots of people in regards to his in-ring ability, but there's no questioning his spear. Goldberg makes the move look more devastating than anyone else in wrestling history, putting so much speed and power into the move that he always sent his opponent flying. The WWE Hall of Famer acted like he was still on the football field, and this made the move look even greater as he refused to hold back, tackling his opponent as hard as possible.
Off the ropes, always untamed, on guard when I step in the ring. WWE, all eyes on me. King of the ring, who you came to see? It's a big show, so let your friends know. Only the strong survive. Face to face, look your opponent up in the eyes. Crowd cheering, fan favorite, I'm the main event. Had them all waiting, my finish move, they anticipating. Laid out like you, son.